When you dare to share, you break the silence. When you dare to share, you speak your truth. When you dare to share, you use the full strength of your voice. When you dare to share, it brings opportunity to own your story. So tell it, be heard, and at the same time, your sharing is someone else's learning, inspiration, motivation, empowerment, and hope. There's always an element to each of our stories that remains a secret. For some, we feel it's a dirty little secret. Dare to share your untold story exposes these secrets in a welcoming and positive way. I encourage each of you out there to dare yourself to share what is yours to tell. When we dare, it is the courage to do something really important. Let this be a vow to each and every single one of us that we take risk, we brave, confront, and face what is, while inspiring and empowering all communities. So let's break that silence and tap into mental beauty. This is Salima Jadabji, your podcast host, a practicing social worker, and your mental wellness connoisseur. Welcome to the Dare to Share Your Untold Story podcast, episode number 61, Relationship Toxicity, Red Flags, Abuse, and the Impact of Not Even Knowing It. To all my fellow listeners, before we get started, I'm just dropping in a note to give you a heads up that this podcast might be emotionally triggering for you. We do invite guests onto the show who share openly about extremely difficult life moments with exposure and impact of what the struggles have been like. The intensity of each episode could have a variable impact on your emotional and mental well-being based on your own personal story. If at any point the topic becomes uncomfortable or upsetting to you in any way, please do not pressure yourself to listen. Instead, be kind to yourself, do some self-care, and perhaps give another episode a try. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our courageous and daring guest, Dr. Shelley Morgan. Dr. Morgan holds a bachelor's degree in biology and environmental science from the University of Western Ontario, and a postgraduate Doctor of Pharmacy from the State University of New York at Buffalo. She is also the founder and CEO of RX Billing Genie, a technology corporation where she co-developed an app that helps pharmacists save valuable time when processing prescriptions. Since its launch, she and her business partner have collaborated with a National Pharmacy Association, and they have been featured in the Pharmacy Practice and Business magazine. Dr. Morgan has been a panelist in several community, provincial, and national discussions. She has learned a lot from her father, who advised her to focus on solutions for problems. This has resulted in her being an entrepreneur to look out for. She continues to work on projects to improve the disposition of those in marginalized communities. In her spare time, Dr. Morgan has helped to create a charity organization, Educate Gen Next, which supports students in both Jamaica and Canada. Her favorite pastimes also include reading, watching movies, and of course, creating new ideas. Well, hello, Dr. Shelley Morgan. Welcome to the Dare to Share Your Untold Story podcast.
Thank you, Salima. Please call me Shelley. I'm so happy to be here. A little nervous, but happy to be here.
Okay, we'll just allow you to kind of ease in and get comfortably uncomfortable, Shelley. It is nonetheless, despite the nervousness that's kind of jittering around the edges there for you, it's actually really nice to have you on the show today. And I have a lot of gratitude for your acceptance in being a guest on the show. So thank you very much for taking that risk to come on board and tell your story.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I actually continue to be energized when I chat with people like yourself, like when I chat with guests like you, who really allow me to draw on strength, support, inspiration with all the storytelling that I get to bear witness to. So, it's really important that the two of us work together and take that stance to help break barriers of mental stigma. So, Shelley, in case you're still wondering, the podcast is all about bringing forward untold stories that people go through, whether it's directly about a mental health struggle or something else. And one thing that we know is that no matter what the story is about, there is impact on one's own mental health in some way, which typically remains tucked away. So this platform aims to serve in a way to break barriers of mental stigma that have been conditioned in our society. So my hopeful mission is for the two of us, again, to just really be able to encourage others to come forward and to share and tell what typically people have hesitation for expressing. And so something that I've done is I'm continuing to bring forward a trend. It's called the mental beauty rethink. Shelley, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear that phrase, the mental beauty rethink?
Mental beauty rethink.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of back to myself when my mental health was not good and I looked terrible on the outside. It
Mm-hmm.
matched on the outside. And now that I feel so much better about myself, my situation, I get way more compliments. So I think, when you're happy on the inside, it can't help but show on the outside. So when you have good mental health, you'll look beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what it means to me.
Yeah, I'm hearing you really drawing that connection between like when you're feeling mentally well and you feel healthy, it kind of
Hmm.
shows up that way on the outside too.
Yes, yes, it does.
Like it's consistent what you feel on the inside and the outside.
Yes, definitely.
That's really cool. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that insightful piece there. That's awesome. Okay. Shelley, I hope
Hmm.
you're ready to dive into our chat today. I know I am.
I am. I am.
Okay. So, Shelley, give us the newspaper headline of how you would title your untold story. What would it say?
It would say, "Woman finds herself again."
Woman finds herself again.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about what this title means to you?
I was a vibrant, active person before. That person disappeared totally.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically, she almost died, and then mentally, and then now I'm I'm back again. I'm on the mend and moving forward.
Mm,
So
okay.
a lot of ups and downs.
Right. And so there's a lot that goes behind woman finds herself again.
Yes.
Hmm. Okay. It shows a transition, right? Being that go getter, tackling things, as you said, you were vibrant, active. You went through these difficulties. You said you disappeared mentally.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
losing yourself comes to mind. And then it seems like then there was a transition and possibly a transformation. So
Hmm.
this is a great segue into the nitty gritty of your untold story. Tell us what it's all about.
Well, I'll give you a little overview of my childhood. I was young, obedient child, very good in school. I was student body president, valedictorian, most outstanding female, all these great things.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you mentioned earlier, I have an undergrad degree, and then I completed my doctor of pharmacy degree
Mm-hmm.
and became a
Mm-hmm.
licensed pharmacist. But I'm
Right.
only saying all these things because what happened to me can happen to anybody, no matter how quote unquote smart you think you are.
Mm-hmm. Or how much education you have.
Yeah, education you think you have. I never imagined people could behave the way they did. So I was blindsided. I had no idea. I would just tell my mom, "This just seems weird, Mom. This seems weird," when I would tell her.
Mm-hmm.
She's like me, or I learned from her, well, everybody's a little different, and trying to be logical about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Mm-hmm.
actually not logical. So it's kind of sad. So, yeah, so great student, all that stuff, accomplished so much. And then I look through the years and I just began to shrink and shrink
Mm-hmm.
and shrink.
Mm-hmm.
And that occurred. I got married not too long after graduating. I had been with my ex 8 years before we even got married,
Okay.
and then married for about 12. And he was my first basically real boyfriend, which I don't
Okay.
recommend to anybody doing, because you need to be young and see the world and have experiences. And then maybe you would notice red flags. I had no
Right.
idea about red flags then. Everything just seemed, oh, well, he's being so nice and protective and sweet.
So there was like a naivety.
Yeah, yeah. Reading up,
Mm-hmm.
you see, oh, wow, it's textbook. It's
Mm-hmm.
textbook what was going on. But like I said, I was so naive. I grew up in way up north in Sudbury, so I was quite naive to a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
After marriage, I had
Mm-hmm.
3 beautiful children. Unfortunately, I had postpartum after each one.
After each one.
Yeah. And the first two are only 18 months apart.
Okay.
So I just found out I had postpartum for the number one and then I was pregnant with the number two. I only found out because the doctors, I went in and I think the baby was about 6 months old, 7 months old. And he says, so when are you guys going to have another one? And when he said that, I just burst out in tears. I said, another one. I'm barely keeping it together for this one.
Right. Right.
And the doc was like, oh, I think we need to talk. So that's how I was first diagnosed with it.
And so you probably hadn't gotten through the bout of postpartum before you were pregnant and then post-pregnancy for baby number two. Did you notice a change in the postpartum, or do you feel like it was just there in the same constant way for that length of time?
Yeah, it was there.
It was just there.
Yeah, because it never went away between 1 and 2. And after 2, it was there.
It was still there.
But it slowly turned into situational depression.
Okay.
And then a few years later, I was pregnant with our third. And unfortunately, it was a very rough pregnancy. I had morning, afternoon, evening sickness constantly that I lost over 20 pounds when I was pregnant with my third. Ended up in the hospital for about a week just to get IVs. Had IVs at home. So it was a very, very rough pregnancy.
Like, because you lost 20 pounds during your pregnancy.
Yeah, I lost 20 pounds. I couldn't keep anything down.
My goodness.
So it was quite the experience. But the baby's beautiful.
Your 3 beautiful children are soldiers. They made it through. But it was difficult. I'm hearing how difficult it was to be in that way, in that space. And were you getting support with the postpartum, like at home?
Well, I remember when I told him after the first one, when I was in the office, his thing was, you backed up his clinic for that. And I was like, okay. I was a little shocked. But it was those little things. Luckily, I have a mother who is retired and is unbelievably helpful. I know I'm blessed to have her. And we had the means to have a live-in nanny as well. So thankfully, I would definitely never have made it out without those extra hands. But that doesn't matter. You're still mom. I would be in bed and the middle one, because he wasn't in school yet, would just come upstairs to lie in bed with me. I couldn't go out with him. I couldn't play with him. I couldn't even talk to him, really. Because even if I talked too much, I would get sick. It
was that overwhelming for you.
It was that overwhelming. I couldn't even walk fast because the motion would make me sick. Everything would make me sick. It was unbelievable.
And so what were some of the red flags that you were noticing during your postpartum?
Well, you just would say you're not able to do what you did before. And he has a very demanding job. And that's why he felt he supported me by getting the help. But, like I said, for certain things, the nanny or your mom, they can't do those for you. You want your partner to be there for you.
Right.
So in that way, like, he was just too overwhelmed, I think. He was having a difficult time in his work, and I was basically a bump on a log. I couldn't tell you much more than that. I could really do nothing for 9 months. And I think that's probably what really started things after she was delivered. Because I think held a lot of resentfulness. I did, about how I felt I was treated during that time. And he did, because I guess he's like, he didn't have a wife or a partner.
So you both had these needs that were unmet. And they both were working incredibly hard. Like, you were working incredibly hard to make sure that you could deliver this baby and be well. And he was working incredibly hard because he had this busy practice. And he felt he needed to do that in order to provide the supports that were needed in the home.
Yes, we really weren't getting what we needed from each other during that time.
Right. And so, you mentioned how, you dated for 8 years, married for 12. So this was like, a 2-decade relationship. And you're sharing a little bit about the red flags that you were noticing. But what kinds of other things were happening in the background? I imagine that there were a lot of subtle things that you were experiencing, that there were subtleties that were showing up, things that you were mentioning that kind of felt odd, but you weren't really sure. Can you say a bit more about those moments?
Just interacting with his family, I kept feeling like they don't like me. I was getting these vibes. And they just felt very judgmental. And I would say to him, I don't like this, or I need a break. Can they not come this weekend? Like, they came to the house every weekend, even when I was sick and vomiting and you don't want anybody in your house.
Yeah.
I would say, no, that's my family. They have to come. And I was thinking, it's like they're on a higher tier than your nuclear family that you've created.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I kept saying, this is weird. This is weird. They shouldn't be so involved in our lives.
So the privacy, you weren't feeling like you had any privacy in the relationship.
No, none at all. And I felt
Mm.
like I was being judged. And he would just say, well, if you weren't doing anything wrong, you won't be judged. So don't worry about it. Just don't do anything wrong, which
Oh
is,
my goodness.
anything wrong in whose eyes?
Right. It's so subjective. So what?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
In the end, I just felt like I was walking on eggshells. I couldn't make a mistake. I couldn't breathe too loud. I couldn't do anything.
That sounds awful.
It was awful. It really was. It
To
really
feel
was.
like anything that you did would be seen as a mistake.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost paralyzing. And then he would say, well, you're not doing anything. So it was like a catch-22.
If you didn't do anything, if you stay quiet and not say anything or not interfere, you're not doing anything. And if you're speaking up and talking about it, you're being told that, well, you're doing things wrong and that's why.
Yeah, you can't win. There's no way to
Right.
win.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
no matter how logical I thought the argument was,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't matter. It did not matter. The onslaught of just words like Niagara Falls coming over you, that I would just give up and say, okay, yes, you're right, and just be done with it.
Mm-hmm. So you just like surrendered to his words.
Yeah. And then if something similar would come up again, well, you agreed with me last time, so obviously I'm right, but it's only because I couldn't take it anymore.
Right. At any time were you feeling like you were being treated like the term gaslighting, like feeling, did you feel like you were being gaslit?
Yes.
Yeah.
So much, so much. There was a time when the last one was getting older and, things weren't great at all between us. And he will say, well, you might as well go get a job and make money because you're not doing anything as a mother. And I said, okay, I will get a job. And I said, okay, tell me what hours I can work, because I would have to work around his schedule.
Right.
No, get a job first. And it was like, it just didn't even make logical sense.
Right. Like, if I'm going to do this, like, let's make this work. Okay, you're agreeing to it, even if it seemed radical. You're like, okay, I'll deal with the radicalness of this. But there was no winning, it doesn't sound like.
That's the point. You're gaslit to keep trying. I remember I ended up getting a job.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a perfect job. And it was 3 days a week, but it was about a half an hour away. And I said, look, I got this job just like you said I should. And it's going to be, it's a great job. Oh, no, you can't do those hours. And I said, but you said to get a job. And I said, I can't get a job, get accepted and say, oh, wait, let me get back to my husband to see when I can work. That sounds crazy.
Well, yeah.
But essentially that's what it was. I remember my mom sitting on the twin bed and saying, Douglas, how is she supposed to get a job if you won't, like, just being.
Yeah, she was just being logical about, like, are you listening to yourself kind of thing? Like,
but that's so many things. And you think.
So there's no reasoning with him at all.
No, there was no reasoning. His way or the highway.
Right. And so when you were mentioning about how, like, there was no privacy in the home, his family seemed pretty over-involved. The relationships with the family, his family seemed to take precedence over the nuclear family, as you mentioned. And this notion of, like, well, you won't be judged if you don't do things that are wrong, so just don't do wrong things. Did that form in any way in your mind? Did that, like, entertain any ideas of, like, perfectionism?
Yeah, but I wanted to be perfect. I didn't want to make a mistake, but it was like, I was so scared to make a mistake. I remember we were traveling and I might have forgotten to bring the car insurance slip. And I was like praying when he was like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. He's going to like yell at me and I'm going to get letters and things about it. But thank God we found it. But making the mistake, I was just terrified. And you shouldn't be terrified to make a mistake with your partner.
Yeah.
And I would say, this is not helpful. What are you trying to do? This is abusive. No, it's not. It's constructive criticism is what he would say.
So when you try to confront with logic, he would tell you it's constructive criticism.
So, yeah.
Okay. And so that must have taken such a toll to be sitting in fear, constantly worrying if you're making a mistake, if you're doing something right, if you're doing something wrong, questioning your own self, striving for perfection, believing that you can't be perfect, that I've never done it. I'd like to be, but no matter how much I strive, I can't get there. That must have taken such a toll on your overall well-being.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
really was terrible.
And so when we talk about abuse, what sorts of abuse would you say that you endured during this time period?
Mental and verbal abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mental abuse, I definitely see the themes emerging with all of the different things that you've shared that you were impacted by, and just even this theme of perfectionism and the gaslighting and the feeling paralyzed and just all those red flags that we were discussing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You started to mention about, him saying that you needed to get a job and things like that. Was there ever anything like on a financial level, like abusive?
Towards the end, I stayed in the house. I ended up leaving the matrimonial home. I stayed in there 8 months after we had we're officially separated.
Mm-hmm.
So I had not worked in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have my own credit card, which kind of hit me. I said, oh my God, how do I have a doctorate degree and don't have my own credit card that's not attached to him, which was a big mistake.
Mm. Right, because you took time off from your work to be with the kids and raise the kids.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
Okay.
during that time, he was going to limit to me to a certain amount a month before any agreement came along. He just decided. And I don't remember what happened, but there was a time he took all the cards out of my purse and I went to go
Mm-hmm.
buy gas and I had no credit card. It was gone. My
Mm-hmm.
mom always told me to tuck $20 away. So at least
Mm-hmm.
I had in the car. So I had $20 in the car.
Right.
And then he gave them back. And then there was another time he did it again. And this time I was getting the card serviced and I'm looking to pay for the $400 car service
Right.
with no credit cards or debit cards in my wallet.
What did you do?
Because I only use one credit card. I had that number memorized. So I just told the
Nice.
guy.
Okay.
I don't know. Most people don't do that, but I do. That saved me that day. That was
Right.
quite embarrassing, but
And so he would just take the credit cards out of your purse and then return them at a later time?
yeah, because we'd have some argument or something was going
So it was
on,
like to
and
punish you.
yeah,
Right. Right. And so that's a lot.
I would say, truth be told,
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning when the divorce is getting talked about and things like that, I put a chunk of money aside and I said, okay, if we're going to get divorced, I need this chunk of money from our joint account. And then he, sweet talked me and said, no, I'll be fair. Everything will be fair. So then I put it back.
Mm.
And then I said, I should have just kept it
Right.
and then worry about it at the end. But
Right.
I'm a bit of a softie. I know there's
Mm-hmm.
other women out there that would have said, hell no. But I was only doing it to feeling like I needed some kind of security.
Yeah, but you were in the situation for so long, right? We talked about how when you're in the thick of it, this can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter how smart or educated you can be, right? That's what
Mm-hmm.
we talked about at the beginning of this conversation. And so you're in this environment that became so influential, and he was very influential in different ways. So he
Mm-hmm.
found a way around it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Boy.
Can you tell me a little bit about the insecurities that you kind of experienced along the way?
Oh, I just felt I wasn't a good mother. I wasn't a good housewife. I wasn't, and I do things that most housewives would never do.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a light to be changed, I change the light. The front door lock breaks, I change the locks. I fixed the locks. I did the
Mm-hmm.
yard work. I did
You did a lot of different chores.
yeah, I did a lot of things. Whereas, maybe I don't do this as a housewife, but I do this when I know most housewives probably aren't doing. So I don't think
Mm-hmm.
he saw my other talents as, significant enough.
Mm-hmm. So even if they were significant to you, they
Hmm.
weren't seen as significant talents to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I remember one time he said, "Oh, I don't play with the kids." Well, actually, one of the children said, "Daddy says you don't play with us." And when she was telling me that, I was there building them stilts out of wood
Right.
so that they could try and walk on stilts. And I'm like,
Right.
well, I think I play with you guys maybe in a little different way,
Mm-hmm.
but we built a push go-kart, those kind of things. I just do things maybe other moms might not, but
Right.
maybe I'm not the type to have, oh, the dinner's ready and the house is perfect and this and that,
Right.
like, I don't know, other housewives, I guess a typical,
Right.
what people think of on TV or whatever.
Exactly. Right.
I'm different, but I see my qualities as really good and beneficial just as much as any other mom has her specialty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And could
So,
your kids recognize that when you shared that with them? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
my little, oh, he just doesn't see it, mom, because he's at work. So she was
Nice.
very, very logical. I said, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I'm so glad you were able to have that conversation with your little one. Mm-hmm. So, is there anything else that you can talk about in terms of something that was really painful for you, or something that really struck you as, wow, I can't believe I'm in this mess, or I can't believe this
Yeah,
is what I'm experiencing right now?
there was a real, oh, I don't. I think we'll need another episode for me to share that this one particular thing I'm struggling with.
Mm-hmm. Well, you definitely can come back on the show for another episode if that's what we need. Mm-hmm.
But I'll say I know a lot of people in this situation. They might get constantly yelled at or things like that. One of my ex's things was writing emails and writing
Mm.
pages and pages and pages of emails as to why I messed this up. I didn't do this right. If I did something, he would say, well, you're getting an email about that. Like, I'm like, oh God, I
Oh,
can't.
like you're being reprimanded by email.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
And they're
goodness.
so horribly degrading, just they were
Mm.
horrible. And when I look back in that moment, I was agreeing, okay, yeah, you're right. I didn't do this right. I didn't do that right. Oh, I'm so sorry. And then I look back at them now and I was like, oh my God, who is that woman? Like when I was
Mm.
saying at the beginning, I lost myself. I was just like,
Right.
the old Shelley was gone.
Right.
She had died. In her spot was this woman who would listen to these words and absorb them and believe them. And I was like,
Mhm.
I was never like that. I was always a go getter, always out there, you know. But when you just get this Niagara Falls of water and words, it's if you're getting sprayed in the face with a hose, you can't breathe.
Well, it's emotional abuse and it's intense and it was written by email. So it's not that you even just hear it once or twice. It's,
Yeah,
I'm sure, as negative as it was, like it's tempting to go back and read it, especially if
yeah,
you had those themes of, feeling like you're walking on eggshells or feeling like you're striving for perfection. You probably, my guess is that you were reading them and trying to see how you could perfect yourself.
yeah, yeah. No, I like some of the bad ones I would even keep in my purse.
Really?
So I look back like, oh my God. Oh my
Wow.
God, this is
Hmm.
crazy.
Hmm.
Like I said, I look back and that poor girl, that poor woman back then.
But those emails, that must have had you feeling really inadequate for years.
Oh yeah,
The
years.
not good enough emails, right? Like you were
Yeah,
not good enough, try harder. If that's the themes that you were experiencing
yeah.
or what he was saying to you.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. So, Shelley, when people come to see me for therapy, individuals are typically in one of three places when they come and they start. Some people are getting started where they just have a bunch of stuff going on, or they have a bunch of things that they need help starting, sorting. Some people are in the middle where there might be something acute going on, or they're just in the thick of things and they need some help navigating. And some people are looking back where they're trying to make some closure on their life so they can move forward, or they're trying to make sense of a couple of things so they can unleash to the next chapter in their life. What part of the journey would you say that you are in? Would you say that you're getting started, in the middle, or looking back?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of doing all three and for different things because right now I'm doing so much,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like my life is really getting started now. But it's really taken me many years to get that. That start has been going on for like 3, 4 years, right?
The impact of not even knowing the level of toxicity that you're experiencing, the abuse, all of the gaslighting, all of that, right? That piece of your journey. Is that still part of your life now?
Well, because we have children together, I don't think
Co-parenting.
it'll ever be totally done with.
Right.
But I'm learning to deal with it better and better each day. And as the therapists and things have told me, is that you can't engage at all because there's no winning, and it just sucks you down. And I have so many things going on in my life that are positive that I do not need my energy sucked for any reason.
Yeah. You don't need to have your energy consumed. So would you still say that you're feeling like you're in all three spaces in time?
Yes, but the getting started, it's not a negative thing. I think it's an exciting position to get started on some of these things that I'm working on.
Your new ventures.
Right, right. So those are in the beginning.
That's like your post transformation. This is part of your transformation, is getting started with the next leg.
Right, right.
Okay.
These last 7 years have been really difficult. I've needed to have therapists and medication as well, and it's just to get through. But now, I've seen that silver lining, and things are starting to come together. I'm out here doing my businesses, and I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of setbacks and good things and bad things, but overall, I'm headed in the right direction. And I wouldn't be here if I had stayed put. I would have accomplished nothing if I had stayed put.
Right.
And it's scary to leave, big, beautiful house and all the, pool, all the bells and whistles. But that reminds me of, I gave up all that luxury. And there was this one Jamaican saying that says, it's better to be hungry and free than well-fed and chained. And I said, that's exactly how I feel. I went from, almost 6,000 square foot house, elevator, everything, to a cozy little house, a third of the size. And it's never felt better.
Right.
When you can push the key in your own door, it's so freeing.
It's liberating, right?
Yeah. And you don't have somebody staring at you and judging you. The in-laws had lived with us, so I always had somebody looking at me and judging me. So it was wonderful to get out. And my girlfriend, who'd gone through something similar 20 years prior, said, Shelley, you're not going to feel like yourself until you get out. And I had to call her and thank her for encouraging me to get out of the situation.
Right.
And thank God I did.
Thank goodness.
Now I look back and I say, that girl, oh, poor thing.
Right.
Poor thing.
Right. So that you have had a chance to reflect on things that you're grateful for.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because of that, I created a series of journals. And just what you just said, that one of the journals is to be thankful for what you have and don't have. I don't have a lot of things in my life, but I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for what I have. So it really changed your mindset. So I'm not, oh, I need this. I need a bigger car, a bigger house, no, I don't need anything. I'm very thankful for what I have. Yeah.
Yeah. You're making it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's plenty, right? So if we could circle back and talk for a moment about how your untold story has affected your mental health. I know we've talked a bit about the postpartum, and we talked about how the postpartum sort of transitioned into situational depression. And from there, we talked about just feeling all of those different emotions, just all of the different pieces that you experienced. Maybe you can start by sharing, what sort of emotions were you experiencing? I know you mentioned feeling scared a lot. What else were you feeling?
Inadequate. I felt that, maybe I'm not a good mother.
So really doubting yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I had no confidence. You go from accomplishing so much and then you let that just slowly chip away at you. And I had no confidence.
So you went from living your best life at 1,000% to negative.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was scary. And then when I knew things were going south, I said, I better get my license back because it had gone to non-patient care. So I did that. And every day I would shadow in the pharmacy, and I was like sit in the car, try not to vomit, take a deep breath. And that lasted for months because I was terrified. I was like, I'm inadequate at this. I haven't been a pharmacist in 10 years, almost 10 years. I don't want to do anything and hurt people. Being a pharmacist, you don't want to make a mistake.
People's well-beings, you felt you were taking that pressure, right? That it's on your shoulders.
It was so scary. And that was stemmed from hearing stuff, negative things. You don't have two neurons to rub together. Those kind of things were said. So it really, like, I had no confidence. No confidence.
That must have really made you feel really anxious too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The walking on eggshells is probably the best way to say it, I guess.
Right. And was there anything that manifested in your life in terms of like physical manifestations or any other like dark thoughts or self-deprecating thoughts different from what you've already shared?
Well, from a young age, whenever I got stressed or anything, it would always come out in my stomach. I would get nauseous. I would throw up. So that would happen. But then when things got really bad, I developed shingles. What was that, in my late 30s, early 40s, shingles, and it was so bad. And it would come every about 3 months. Somebody my age should be having shingles every few months. So my doctor was like, "This is crazy, Shelley. You have stress. Something's going on in your life, and you need to look at it."
What was it like to have the shingles? How did you function?
Well, luckily, it was on my leg and not in my, like other people's, usually in the torso. So I still had to do whatever I had to do. I was told it was my guilty conscience was causing my shingles.
So all that self-deprecating thoughts, right? So that inner critic really coming in full force. Maybe even shame associated there too.
Oh, for sure. Because, on paper, everything looks great. What do you have nothing to complain about, because on paper it looks wonderful.
Right. Right. And so it's like, well, what do I have to complain about? Well, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Like, I should be grateful. Isn't this the life that people want? I have it.
Yeah.
Why can't I accept this? How come I can't do it right? I have everything. Right? Like, were those kinds of thoughts happening for you on the inside?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like I said, you look on the outside, and when they say that saying, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, it's a very true saying.
Right. So, Shelley, what's your key message to the listeners of our show? What do you want them to know? And what's that message that you want to give to younger Shelley? Because I'm sure there's a lot of younger Shelleys out there right now.
It's almost what I would want myself to know in that time. I say to my mom, I said, I wish I could go back and tell that girl, get the hell out of there now, because your life is going to be so much better when you're free. The practical would be to photocopy all of your banking and such information, have a copy of all those things, copy of T4 slips, all those things, know where all that money is going. And my mom has a great saying, Jamaican saying, prepare while you wait. Nobody can tell you what the right time is, but you need to be preparing for the right time. Because the one thing I've learned from reading and watching about narcissists and this and these toxic people, they don't change. There is no changing them.
There's manipulation, so it looks like they're different each time, but the underlying traits are unchanged, right?
Yeah, it's all just a little sweet talking, as they say, and then you're back exactly where you are. So you can't believe them.
Right. So the narcissist will never change. So what do you need to do different?
You need to change yourself. And like I said, you prepare while you wait. Like I was lucky, as my mom made me as a younger, you're going to get your university degree, you're going to do this. So I was lucky to have that, lucky to have a profession like I do. I did give it up a little bit, but I was able to get back into it. But I feel sorry for women who don't have that and have to do this without any help. I can't imagine. But even that, you've got to be strong enough to do it. Because in the end, you have to be strong for the kids.
Yeah.
You have to get out and just do it as safely as possible. I know I've seen like examples of other, different kind of toxic marriages, and it can be scary and stuff like that. Just be careful and safe and just prepare so that when you leave, you kind of have things lined up
And if you start that process to get out, then you got to keep going, right? There's no looking
Yeah,
back.
you don't look back, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and I'm like, oh, the future looks so bright. I can't be bothered to look back.
And so do you feel like you've been able to embrace a sense of like relief in your life now?
Yeah,
Yeah. You can breathe.
yeah, there is. I can breathe.
Like, yeah, there's like breathing room.
Yeah, there's still things that come up, and I
Sure.
use those as examples of why I made the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
Every time something comes up that might bother me, or you want to argue your point back, I said, no, this is why I left.
This is exactly why I'm not in that right now. Right. Right.
That's kind of freeing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy for that.
Yeah. And so on that note, I'm actually curious about at the time that you were pivoting during your transition, what was that game-changing inspiration that's close to you that reflects your untold story? So was there a mantra or a quote or a book or something that really resonated for you?
Don't let anybody steal your joy.
Mm,
And that's such a simple,
yeah.
you can't give other people the power for your happiness, for your joy, because if they have the power for that, they have the power to take it away,
Mm,
right? So don't let anybody steal it.
yeah. They can take it away and you don't want them to, and they don't need to, and it's yours to preserve and protect.
If you leave that up to somebody else, then if they're not there, they can take away your joy. But if you are the source of your own happiness and joy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
It's important to really look at what you're doing and the choices that you're making, and are they truly good for you? And that can
Yeah.
help you determine if your joy is leaving you or not. What a great and simple message. Don't let anybody steal your joy.
Yeah.
So, then what would be a cause or an organization that has been impactful to you on your journey, either during the time or maybe now, that you'd like to give a shout out to?
There's a couple that I don't know if you mentioned it, but I'm in the process of gutting an 18th century home. And my goal, or my hope and prayer, is that I can work with women and children looking for housing in Halton.
Mm.
And there's a couple of groups that looking at Home Sweet Hope
Mm-hmm.
and Halton Women's Place.
Mm.
And I think I would love to help them in some way.
It's a neat initiative.
I had something for myself to fall back on, but not everybody's as lucky or as blessed to have those
Right.
options.
But you're impacting change, and your gesture is something of it's what's feasible for you, what you're able to do. But impacting change starts when you just start speaking up, right? Being that first domino, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the domino effect. I'm really intrigued by this renovation that you speak about of the 18th century home and what your
Yeah.
intentions are to do with it and for the people, for the women and children. It's a really neat initiative. It's so lovely to know that that's something that you're working on in the background. Amazing. And so, how are you findable? What are the platforms that you're on?
LinkedIn mostly,
Mm-hmm.
but through my business, RX Billing Genie, we have Twitter, Instagram as well.
And what about TikTok?
Oh, I'm starting that.
It's starting? Okay.
It's
All right.
starting, and I wanted to do another TikTok thing just about doing renovating the house,
Oh, sweet.
to see if that makes it. But yes, I am on
Okay.
TikTok as well.
Perfect. Amazing. Well, guess what, Shelley?
Yes.
You just dared yourself to
Oh
share.
my gosh.
Congratulations.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe I can't believe, oh, it's over so fast. I can't believe I did it.
You
I got
did.
through it. Oh my
You
gosh.
did it. You're breathing and you got comfortably uncomfortable and you rocked it.
Yes. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
And actually, Shelley, like on a more serious note, honestly, I am just mesmerized with the raw conversation that just went down. You articulated so clearly the nuances with how you experienced mental abuse, verbal abuse, and what led up to the financial abuse. You also tapped into how your own mental well being was truly impacted and what it was like to go through postpartum 3 times, not to mention the impact of this divorce process and all of the pieces
Mm-hmm.
that went into that. This story is genuinely a gift to so many individuals out there who are working hard, really hard to find their strength and courage to do what you're doing and what you've done. So I have big thank yous for you for this deep conversation and for all the daring and for all the sharing that just went down.
I just hope other women have the strength to continue on and know that at the end of it, you'll be so much happier.
Wonderful message. Well, once again, Shelley, thank you for being part of Dare to Share Your Untold Story and helping to be a voice in breaking down the barriers of mental stigma. To all of our listeners, if you like what you've been hearing on this podcast and you want to be part of breaking down barriers of mental stigma, I invite you to go wherever you are listening to the episode and hit subscribe. Leave us a comment or a review of the episode and maybe how you relate to it. To learn more about what we offer, visit www.daretoheal.co. And if you are feeling ready and brave to share, please submit your story by visiting www.daretoshare.co. Thanks for joining in.